بسم الله سبحان الله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد كل حرف كتب ويكتب أبد الآبدين ودهر الداهرين وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope everyone is well and in the best of health and iman, inshallah ta'ala. Can I just get a yes, inshallah, or a no that you can hear me clearly, inshallah? قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته إلى الدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. So there was a famous story behind this, but the gist of this hadith is and has been mentioned as a principal point when starting any Islamic science. Specifically, my hadith studies, I noticed that from the many shuyukh that I studied from, they kept this as a religious point where they would clarify, stress the importance of intention. Because sometimes when we're studying something, we don't reevaluate why we're studying, what we're studying, and what's really the conclusion for this journey that we've undertaken. Something might be free, something might not be as expensive, something might be expensive, depending on whatever it is. But the idea is that we're learning it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Dhariyat that our purpose in this world is ubudiyya, worship. And the essence of worship or the purpose of worship is the rida of Allah, the pleasure of Allah. So please keep this in your mind as students of knowledge, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala firstly rectify our intentions, correct our intentions for why we're learning this course, for why we're studying, because essentially going forward, if we do it with the right intentions, the barakah, the blessings you will see as you go along. And really, to conclude on that point, the more you put into this course, the more you get out. It's as simple as that. And it's not a hard and fast rule that if you don't, you won't, because sometimes there are circumstances which I appreciate, sometimes which some students of knowledge might think that as a result, I don't think I can attend. But sometimes the case might be that that opportunity may not ever come again. I've studied this book by three shuyukh. So I studied initially when I started this book, I studied it back in 2000 and I believe it was five, if I'm not wrong, 2005. And my first teacher was a sheikh who done his studying and graduated from Darul, which is one of the seats of learning or the famous seats of learning in Gujarat, India. Sheikh Sarkar Ahmed, his name is. He's currently resident in Leicester, but we had completed the full Qudoori and a very experienced teacher. He had taught other institutions in the UK. So that was the first time I completed this book. The second time was I studied this book was with a Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Akram An-Nadawi, Hafidhahullah. Again, he's a Sheikh who I attribute majority of my studying life to, or should I say a lot of the subjects to. He has what I would call given me khilafah in the field of knowledge. So what that khilafah is basically some kind of rubber stamp. Again, he said it very casually. Again, here I won't go in deep into what khilafah is, but basically in certain Islamic sciences, some teachers of high pedigree, they give what we call a license officially or unofficially to those students of theirs who they feel will either carry on the legacy of ilm or knowledge, or that they have the competency and the necessary qualities to carry on as their representatives in the line of knowledge. So Dr. Muhammad Akram al-Nadwi, Hafidhullah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him, still is teaching. But he granted me, or you can say in other words, ijaza as well, but khilafa as well, which is responsibility. But because I'm one of his only students in the city of Oxford, he does have some other ones. But this was something specific. He blessed me, and I had endeavored to carry on this legacy, but to do it fi sabilillah, because there were various reasons behind that. In my sort of 20 years plus of experience of teaching and studying, I came across many experiences, many people, which made me feel that I should make this more accessible and knowledge should be more accessible. And at DAIO, that's exactly what we're doing, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us, bless you, accept our intentions and accept our ibadah. So I was saying, one of the shuyukh that I studied with was Sheikh Sarkar Ahmad Sarkar, sorry. Then I said Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Akram al-Nadwi. With him, I didn't complete the book. We done certain ajza. So I can't quite remember which ajza they were, but they're written in my exercise book that I had. So with him, I think it was back in 2013, maybe. I think, I'm not too sure, just giving rough dates. The last person who I studied it with was in recent years. I think it was a couple of years ago. Was Mufti Liaqat Zaman of the UK. He's a very well respected Mufti who's teaching at an institute based in Birmingham here in the UK. I also studied Usulul Iftar with him as well, the principles of giving fatwa with him, which was a blessing. So this is just to give you an idea of who I studied with relation to the Mukhtasr Qudoori. Now, what is Mukhtasr Qudoori? We're going to find out very shortly. Easy answer is it is a textbook, a classical textbook, which was used to teach the Hanafi fiqh. Now, in every particular science, can we please ensure that we have our mics off, inshallah? Barakallahu feek. May Allah bless you. So one, sorry, totally forgot my train of thought. If someone can kindly remind me where I was, what I was talking about, sorry. Bi'idhnillah. If anyone can just remind me very quickly. Allahu Akbar. Classical text, right? Yes, so Qudoori, talking about Mukhtasar al-Qudoori. So Mukhtasar Qudoori is a text among many of the textbooks which was authored for the teaching of Islamic theology, or what we know as fiqh, for students around the world. Okay. This is a very classical textbook. I won't say it's a primer in the science of Hanafi fiqh, but it's a book upon which many other scholars wrote commentaries, wrote their own books, which you will learn, inshallah, briefly in this introduction. Yeah, as I said previously, if there are any questions, please feel free to ping your questions in the chat box, and inshallah, I will endeavor to answer them as I go along. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay. Right. The other thing I will mention, so the institute that you are studying at is called Darul Arqam Institute, Oxford. So I was a co-founder of a sheikh who was here in the UK. He was a specialist in the qira'at, but he's moved to Saudi. He's a mechanical engineer, but someone who lived in the vicinity of Oxford. So some of you may remember that the first place of learning in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the house of Arqam radiallahu ta'ala an. Okay, so the first institute of learning, or the first place which was established for the learning and teaching of the deen, was the house of Arqam radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in Makkah al-Mukarramah. So therefore, with that history and that insight, the institute was called Darul Arqam Institute Oxford. There are other Darul Arqams around the UK and outside. I'm aware there's one in Leicester. I think there's a couple up north. But to clarify, we put Institute Oxford. So that's just to clarify if you're wondering why that name was given. Okay, so Arqam radiallahu ta'ala anhu, his house was pretty much the first place of learning. Um, Teaching and for worshipping in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, why they were facing persecution from the kuffar. So the first question is, who is this course for? Because ideally, when you come across a poster or you see something quite flashy, we're generally very curious to know that what is it about? Who is it for? What is it for? So I thought I'll mention a few things in a systematic order just to give an insight as to actually what this course is. So, who is this course for? For teenagers and adults. The reason why I've said teenagers is because Islamic theology or fiqh requires thinking, and that's what fiqh means, to think, to contemplate, to understand. And that's the reason why. So if I'm saying teenagers, I would say relatively age 15, 16 upwards. Ideally, if I was to put a restriction, I would say 18, but but there again, it just depends on the pickup of some teenagers and adults. It is particularly beneficial for students of Islamic law. So if you're becoming a lawyer or a barrister, you're studying law, or you're studying law partly in degree programs, or those of you who are studying the Islamic version of what law is meant according to the Sharia and its regulations and so forth, definitely beneficial. This course can also be taken by anyone interested in learning more about the rulings of purification, tahara, prayer, salah, fasting, Saum, zakat, and hajj. Okay, so in Mukhtasr al-Qudoori, we'll come across the five pillars, and there will be other things that we will discuss with relation to transactions, buying and selling, briefly inheritance, and other chapters as well. Okay. The next point is quite important about prerequisites. So this course does not require any prerequisites as such, but having said that, students are expected to speak and understand English. So I've endeavored to deliver every course that's delivered here at Darul Arqam Institute, Oxford. So among the courses that are currently being delivered, specifically long term, one is this. So hopefully, inshallah, it will be this year. If we don't complete it this year, then it will carry on into the next academic year. So from September to the following July, with August being break. There will be breaks over the December period and then around April time, just so that we've got a nice little break, inshallah ta'ala. Other than that, we've got the Sunan of Abu Dawud. So one project which I was very religious about, and something which inspired me, or was an inspiration from my Shaykh Dr. Muhammad Akram al-Nadwi Hafidahullah, who's currently the Dean of Cambridge Islamic College and Al Salam Institute, London, which was initially in Oxford. Um, he had a wish to establish something here, but due to unforeseen circumstances, it was established for some years, but thereafter they moved to London and they established it there. Now they're teaching online the various Islamic sciences. So that's Hadith. So that's a project where we're going to go through all the six canonical books. So Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Jami' Tirmidhi, Sunan Abu Dawud, which is what we're currently doing. We've currently covered 2000 ahadith. The recordings are on the YouTube channel. Sunan Ibn Majah and Sunan Nasai, these six books. After these six books, some of the books that we will be studying, inshallah, for example, Muwatta Imam Malik, the book of Imam Malik, Muwatta Imam Muhammad, and many other hadith books. Another thing which I'm doing is short courses. So that's going to happen on an ad hoc basis throughout the year. So the next course, inshallah, which DEI will be advertising, is a Ijaza and Sanad course for a hadith, for a course on the hadith field. It is the 40 ahadith on the virtues of the qira'at and tajweed. So the 40 ahadith on the virtues of qira'at and tajweed. This is a short course that will be coming up very, very shortly, inshallah. I'm just in the planning stage, but inshallah. So just to let you know what else is happening at DAIO, inshallah. Okay. And those of you who are on the group, you can have a look around what else we have. We have a Sisters Islamic QA as well. We have a Brothers and Sisters Revert group. We have an Islamic Studies group as well, which is where courses are advertised. And then we've got sort of a students community and then a basic community group as well, inshallah. Okay. For the hadith lessons, the hadith project, that is on the Telegram group. Okay. So just to give you an idea, inshallah ta'ala. So students are expected to speak and understand English. This course prefers that students know a basic level of Arabic reading to help find key concepts at times, or to help define key concepts at times. So again, yes, it may be that some of you who have not studied Arabic language and literature may have that difficulty. So for that reason, the textbook that we will be using will be, inshallah ta'ala, that commentary and explanation of Qudoori, which is in the English language, hopefully. Okay. And there will be the i'rab. You will have the diacritical marks on the Arabic to make it easier for some of you to read, inshallah. Okay. I have published Medina Arabic course book. So this is a course that I'd initially started. The initial course, according to Dr. V. Abdul Rahim, who sadly has passed away, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and enlighten his grave with the nur of Jannah. He's taught at Medina University for about 4 decades, and initially it was 3 books. So since the 90s, or I think or before, it's been 3 books. Now, in recent years, it's been separated into 7 booklets. So I've completed the first booklet, and the recordings of that is on the YouTube channel. Again, free to access. So those of you who are keen on learning Arabic can access that, inshallah, there as well. There's lots of Q&A there, but inshallah, in good time, I will be starting volume 2, inshallah, in the near future. Aims. The core aim of this course is to study the Sharia Islamic law, which is related to everyday rules and the way in which one should worship his or her Lord. All of this will be presented based on the Hanafi school, sorry, typo there, Hanafi school of thought perspective. Okay, there might be some typos, so you will need to excuse me, inshallah. Some of these handouts, inshallah, I will send to you afterwards. Okay, so you will have them for your record. Okay. So that's the core aspect of this. You are studying, long story short, the rules and regulations of Islam. So whether we say Sharia law or we say fiqh or Islamic theology, it all means the same. Okay. Lesson preparation. Students are recommended to prepare the lesson before they attend based on the lesson objectives. Again, this is recommended. If you can do it, would be ideal. Okay. If not, no worries. And a basic prep would be perhaps just reading through. And if there are concepts that, give you a tickle, to do a bit of research, I suppose. Maybe start with Google, or maybe look at some books that you have or PDFs that you have, inshallah. You probably have noticed already that I've sent some PDFs on the WhatsApp group for you to read. So I sent one a couple yesterday, one which was about the history of the Hanafi fuqaha, the scholars of the Hanafi school of thought, and then a very brief history of the Hanafi school itself. And PDFs like that, which is short and sweet, but is targeting specific areas, inshallah, throughout the course, I will be sending it. Where needed, I will, inshallah, send it through. But also, if there is something that you feel that is beneficial, please do liaise with me, inshallah, and then I'll give the go-ahead whether I feel that is suitable for this course or not, inshallah. But if you find something and you think it's beneficial, please do contact me. That would be much appreciated because it may be beneficial, inshallah. Students are recommended to discuss any current issues which are related to the lessons. Okay, that's really important as well. So, if some of you can get together, again, I don't know how feasible that would be, but it would be really, really beneficial to review the lesson. So, whatever's taught, have a review process. So, you've got an initial process of looking ahead, trying to have a look as to what the future lesson will entail. Secondly, what you've studied in the lesson, to review that lesson so that you can fill in the blanks. If there's still any part of that lesson which requires clarification or questions, or you've got a big question mark which needs polishing, then Alhamdulillah, I am here. I will try in my uh, with full strength to answer that, inshallah. The prime materials for this course, or I should say the main material, sorry. Okay, so the course book in Arabic, which is what we're studying, Al Mukhtasr Al Qudoori, but I've got an Arabic print for that. If any of you, I've got a couple of PDFs in Arabic, so if any of you are interested, please do send a message on the group and I will send it over there. The translation of the book by Tahir Mahmoud Kiani. So I was researching over what some other institutes were doing as well, and I found that this textbook that Dr. Tahir Mahmoud Kiani had translated was being used. So I thought it was best. I've got about two or three, but I thought this was the best copy, and it seemed to me the best print as well. Other materials will be provided whenever the need arises to supplement your understanding. So I've left some very useful PDFs. So I have taken the last 10 days to really um, bring out a lot of this information. So this is the version we'll be using for those who would like to purchase. So again, it's not to say that there aren't other bookshops, but this is something I thought would give you a start. A review of the textbook that will be used for the course. So there's a review here. Feel free to read that in your own time. If you would like to purchase but a different copy from what will be used, again, it's in English, but a different print, different scholar or company. There's one here. Likewise, there's one here as well. And there's a third one here too. Okay, so these are different shops here. Okay, feel free to look through, and if you need to just check with me, feel free to text, inshallah, in your own time. Any questions so far? No? Okay, alhamdulillah. Learning outcomes. So understanding the core rulings related to worship in the Hanafi school. So the question could arise that why isn't it that we are not discussing the fiqh of, for example, Imam Malik or Imam Shafi'i or Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal? The very clear reason is that this textbook is geared towards understanding the Hanafi school in its entirety at a basic to intermediate level, if that makes sense. Many of the Hanafi books, you will find some level of comparison between Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Shafi'i. So do keep that in mind. When there are comparisons with other school of thoughts, generally it's with Imam Shafi'i. But again, there may be moments that I might mention, maybe not, um, something related to that ruling or that mas'ala from the Hanbali school of thought or possibly the Maliki school of thought. But again, that's a if or maybe. So please do take note of that. Appreciate the wisdom and purpose of these legal rulings. So again, why were some of these legal rulings there? Again, you'll get a better understanding. Develop a basic understanding of legal reasoning, understanding the practical implementation of divine guidance concerning worship. And essentially, as I said at the beginning, the reason why we are learning fiqh is to improve ourselves with regards to worship, ubudiyah, but more so, fiqh, in easy words for the layman, is to perfect those things that you would be doing in your daily life to such a level that it brings some sort of solace and comfort in your mind and heart, but also an essence, a feeling, a drive, an ambition to better yourself. Okay, but it's got to start from somewhere. A brief biographical sketch of Imam al Quduri. So, this is something that I found that a student at another seminary wrote, but nevertheless, I thought it was a nice uh, point where we would go through this, inshallah. So, I'm just going to quickly read through this. Okay. Inshallah. So Imam Abu al-Hasan Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Ahmad bin Ja'far bin Hamdan al-Faqih al-Quduri al-Baghdadi. So one thing to remember is that Imam al-Quduri, he was a Hanafi jurist, a faqih among the many who have preceded us. And he was from Baghdad, was a great Hanafi scholar and jurist. He was famously known as Imam al-Quduri, okay? Hence, when we say we're going to study Quduri, that means Mukhtasr al-Quduri. A lot of people know it as Qudoori. There are two opinions about the origin of Imam Quduri's name. One opinion is that he was from a neighborhood in Baghdad that was called Qudura, or the other opinion suggests that his name refers to one who sells pots, a Qudur. So Qidr in Arabic is pot, and Qudur is the plural. Okay, so perhaps it may have been his father or perhaps someone in his family, and therefore that name may have come about. But again, these are opinions. He was born in Baghdad in AH, so after Hijri, 362, and grew up in a religious home. His father, Muhammad bin Ahmad bin Ja'far, was a scholar of hadith. Imam al-Quduri memorized the entire Quran at an early age and remained engaged in its recitation thereafter. He was blessed with learning various sciences such as tafsir, hadith, kalam, fiqh, and usul al-fiqh. Imam al-Quduri studied the science of jurisprudence under the tutelage of Abu Abdullah al-Faqih Muhammad bin Yahya al-Jurjani. So there's another um, PDF which we'll go through very quickly after this, inshallah. And I'll highlight there his teachers, inshallah ta'ala. He studied hadith under Sheikh Abu al-Hussein al-Hushabi. So again, between Imam Quduri and Imam Abu Hanifa, all the way to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is a chain of transmission. Okay, so that I will go through, inshallah, in the next PDF. Imam al-Quduri had many students. Some of them were Khatib al-Baghdadi, he was a great historian and a scholar as well. Imam al-Sarakhsi, another great scholar of Islam. Qadi al-Qudat, Abu Abdullah al-Damaghani, Abu Nasr, Imam al-Tannuhi, both Khatib al-Baghdadi and Damaghani narrated hadith from him. So it wasn't just a fact that you would find scholars had perfection or were trying to aim for perfection in the field of fiqh, but also they were trying to specialize or study other Islamic sciences. Okay, so just because you're studying at this institute, one thing that you won't hear from Darul Arqam Institute, Oxford, and I say this with great pride, that I will never discourage you from studying from other teachers, because this is something I done. I recollect that perhaps or possibly the teachers that I studied with since 2000 perhaps go beyond 100, and that is in all the Islamic sciences. So if I was to say here and say no, DIO is the best place, that would be far off the mark. Okay, so the more teachers you study from, the different institutions you study from, the better you will you will better yourself and you will improve yourself, because each teacher has something to offer. So you might find in my methodology or philosophy or the psyche that I have behind specific things during this course may be different from another teacher. So the benefit is that you take the positives from wherever you study and then you make it your way. Okay, and that's the best way, but you can only do that when you study with different teachers. Imam al-Quduri lived at a time when the science of fiqh was flourishing. Many great scholars came from this period, such as Abu Zayd al-Dabusi, Abu Ja'far al-Nasafi. So these were again great Hanafi scholars. Abu Layth al-Samarqandi, Again, he was a scholar who wrote a famous book by the name of Tuhfatul Fuqaha. In his time, Imam al-Quduri was one of Iraq's leading scholars. So when we talk about Hanafi fiqh, Iraq was a hotbed of Hanafi scholarship. In fact, Imam Abu Hanifa and scholars before him, they presided there, and that's where the initiation and the development of the Hanafi fiqh took place. Iraq, okay? Kufa more so. He was distinguished by his penetrating intellect and extensive knowledge in the science of fiqh. Ibn Kamal Pasha ranked and divided the Hanafi madhab's scholars into six categories. Imam al-Quduri was placed in the category of the mujtahid scholars who are muqallid. So mujtahid means someone who's attained this degree of finesse in theology that now he or she has the ability to pretty much give um, era defining fatwas or era defining legislations, just to put it in a nutshell. They are personalities whose presence and whose knowledge and whose persona has an immense impact on the running of things in a specific way or a specific subject or concept, whatever it may be. But having said that, he was a muqallid. So he was someone who had attained that level, but he still followed someone who was a mujtahid and someone who's a great name, i.e. Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala. These authorities gave preference to different opinions, tarjih, within the school. So what you will find, which will come over time, inshallah, and again, I'm not going to go too deep because this course is about a very solid introduction, but at the same time, definition to what Hanafi theology contains and is. But you will find the word tarjih, and tarjih means to give preference. So when we have Islamic rules and regulations, sometimes it's not a matter of هذا حلال وهذا حرام. No, it's a matter of preference. And this is a point which I would like to stress so much because a lot of Muslims in our era today, unfortunately, they are very quick to draw opinions or judgments without prior knowledge or studying or research. And that's really important to keep in mind, that we do not dismiss or give a lack of recognition to someone just because that's what it seems like. Without knowledge, without research, opinions will not be considered anyway in the world of fiqh. So that's very, very important to remember. Imam al-Quduri authored several books on the subject of fiqh. Some of his most famous books included At-Taqrib, Sharh Mukhtasr al-Karhi, At-Tajreed, and Al-Mukhtasr al-Quduri. His Taqrib was written regarding the Masail in which there's a difference of opinion between Imam Abu Hanifa. So Imam Abu Hanifa's real name was Nu'man bin Thabit, rahimahullah ta'ala. Okay, so for those of you who are not aware of his real name, it's Nu'man bin Thabit, rahimahullah ta'ala, and his students. Two of his primary students who were Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan Ash-Shaybani, rahimahullah ta'ala, and another one was Qadi Abu Yusuf, rahimahullah ta'ala. Okay, or Abu Yusuf as he's known as. However, At-Taqrib did not hold discussions about the school's evidence. For this reason, he thereafter wrote another version of the work in which he included these discussions. At-Tajreed is another book. So again, what we're doing here is just opening you up slowly to who Imam Quduri was, what he studied, who his teachers were, who his students were, what was his philosophy, what was his methodology, so on and so forth. Okay. At-Tajreed is another book in fiqh that Imam al-Quduri authored. In it, he compares the masail on which the Hanafis and the Shafi'is differed. From all books, if there are any questions, please make sure that you text in the chat box, please, okay? From all the books he wrote, Mukhtasr al-Quduri is the work that has been studied by eager students of knowledge for generations, and you can see why. This book is also known as Al-Kitab. Many have received help from it. It contains about 12,000 masail. So just imagine, by having studied this course, I won't claim that you would have mastered, but you would have studied, you would have understood, you would have gained exposure or perhaps an in-depth insight to certain concepts of the Hanafi madhab. And among them, maybe 2,000, 5,000, Allah knows best. But we will be studying about 12,000 masalas. This is a classical book of fiqh which covers masail pertaining to purification, prayer, business transactions, inheritance, etc. His Mukhtasr is taught in thousands of Islamic seminaries across the world as a mainstay introductory textbook in the subject of Hanafi fiqh. So that clarifies it very quickly. This curricular universality is found because of a variety of reasons. The most significant reason is that acceptance comes from Allah. It comes in the Holy Quran. My success is only through Allah. I believe this ayat is, may Allah forgive if I'm wrong, وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. I believe. Many have authored similar books, but Allah accepted his work. And it's beautiful how his book gained acceptance, but we'll come across that shortly. Mukhtasar al-Qudoori is best suited to introduce students to the subject of fiqh because it includes the primary masail. By perusing its pages, one becomes accustomed to the jurist's jargon, and the book trains one to think like a faqih. Like I said to you, the whole purpose and the exercise of this course is not to cover or complete the book. It is to develop skill. And what is that? Your thinking. And how your thinking develops, it will be in various ways. Okay. In his commentary on Hidayah, Hidayah is another textbook of the Hanafi school of thought. Imam Badrul Aini. So Imam Badrul Aini, he's written a commentary on Al Hidayah. Okay, that when Imam al Qudoori finished compiling his Mukhtasar, he went to Makkah to perform the Hajj, and he took the book with him. After completing his tawaf, he asked Allah, "Oh Allah, give this book the ability to rectify, or you, Ya Allah, rectify any errors that you find in the book." Thereafter, he opened the book, flipped through it page by page. Subhanallah, he only found 5 or 6 places, Subhanallah, that required editing, and this was one of its miracles. There isn't, or it's very difficult to find an institution around the world where Mukhtasar al-Qudoori isn't taught. So this is predominantly true for those institutions who are basing their theology on a Hanafi school of thought. But it can also be said for places such as Al-Azhar University, Medina University, and other seats of learning, Darul Ulum Deoband in India, and other great seats of learning in South Asia. Qudoori is not just a manual for teaching, it is a reference-based legal text on which numerous scholars penned commentaries. So there are so many commentaries that are written, but some I will be particularly referring to. But there's a host of them just coming now. Al-Murghinani is noted to have included it in his own book, Al-Hidayah, which he relied on both Qudoori and Jami al-Saghir. So those of you who may be studying Al-Hidayah, the Hanafi textbook, or are about to study, this is inshallah something that I will be teaching in the near future. The book of Al-Hidayah is primarily based on these two textbooks, the Mukhtasar, which we're studying, and Jami' al-Saghir, which I'm going to go through in due course, which was one of the 6 books, which was authored by Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. Imam al-Qudoori, rahimahullah ta'ala, passed away in 428 after Hijri. He was first buried at his home, but was later moved and buried next to the grave of Abu Bakr al-Khawarizmi. So why was he moved? Allah Ta'ala alam, Allah knows best. Okay, that's a different subject in itself, so I won't be touching that. Inshallah. I don't know why I haven't come across that yet. If I do, I'll let you know. Inshallah. Abu Bakr al-Khawarizmi, if I'm not wrong, I believe he's the person who was known as the father of optics. So those who are opticians, the person who initially was the founder of that science was Abu Bakr al-Khawarizmi. Okay, just to put down note. So some of the commentaries we've got here, Al-Jawharatu Nayyara, which was one of the most detailed commentaries on the Mukhtasar of Qudoori. At-Tajreed is another good one. Al-Jawahir al-Mudiyya is another one which I believe is in Arabic. Kashf al-Zunun is in Arabic. And Al-Budur al-Mudiyya is also in Arabic. There are some English commentaries. There are some commentaries in Lughatul Urdiya, the Urdu language as well. So just keep that in mind. Imam al-Qudoori, a teacher of Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. So it's a little bit, the print's not clear, but I thought this was good. Khatib al-Baghdadi was a famous historian, a famous scholar. Again, something which was written by another scholar. A little known fact about the illustrious Hanafi Imam, Abu Hussein Ahmad ibn Muhammad al-Qudoori, author of the widely accepted Hanafi manual of fiqh, Mukhtasr al-Qudoori, in his being counted among the many teachers of Khatib al-Baghdadi, the famous hadith scholar and historian. Please make sure you make note. The latter even included a notice of Al-Qudoori in his Tarikh of Baghdad. Al-Khatib Baghdadi said about him, I wrote from him. He was extremely truthful, Saduq. So one of the sciences that we find in Islam is the science of critique or critiquing. So, in the field of hadith specifically, you find those scholars who are specialists in ilmul rijal, which is the science of critiquing the narrators of the hadith. So what that actually means is that narrator by narrator, you have scholars who have specialized in studying their biography, their history, who they studied with, their lives, and in essence draw a conclusion on how they were as scholars and whether they were reputable enough to be considered or included in Islamic scholarship. Okay, so that's what we mean by those who were um, uh, critiquing. Okay, but Suduq, Sidq is a quality of the many which the scholars use as a template or a basis to judge the scholars, and of those who excelled in jurisprudence due to his intelligence. The leadership of companions of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala culminated at him in Iraq. He was of magnificent stature to them and of high repute. He had wonderful expression in discussion with a courageous tongue and was constant in the recitation of the Quran. So when we're learning fiqh, it's not just about mastering fiqh, but some of the other qualities that we should be looking at is trying to develop our speaking skills, our skills of discussion, our oratory skills, I should say, our skills to perhaps research, our psyche, our thinking behind different concepts, all these different skills. So if we're not developing or our growth in a particular skill is stunted, then you need to question yourself, what is it or why is it that this is happening? So consult your teachers or ask them for their opinion or ask some other scholars. But what is important that we should be always looking to develop our skill and finesse in the skill as well. But that finesse or that expertise in that particular skill comes over time. Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi also narrates a hadith from Al-Qudoori, which he includes under the biographical notice. Al-Qudoori was not only a leading Hanafi jurist, but a learned scholar of hadith. His works on Al-Tajid on comparative fiqh and Sharh Mukhtasr al-Karhi on the detailed rulings and evidences of Hanafi fiqh bear testimony to this fact. May Allah have mercy on him and reward him abundantly on behalf of all who benefited from him and his invaluable contributions. Ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of our parents, bless all of our teachers and those who were a means of us to come to this point of interest and this point of commitment that we would like to now study something else. This in itself is a big thing. So sometimes we do unknowingly undermine our teachers who taught us in our initial stages. Just remember, if we didn't receive that knowledge, we wouldn't be here today. Just imagine the funding and the support of our parents. If that wasn't there, we wouldn't be here today. So رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our parents as they nurtured us or reared us in our youth. When Al-Qudoori completed the writing of his book, he took it to the sacred house of Allah and hanged it on the Kaaba. So I would question that. I would prefer to say he placed it on the Kaaba, or he held it against the Kaaba, or something of the sorts. I'm not sure hanging would be an accurate translation, but that's obviously my opinion. That may be wrong as well. He asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless his book. Allah accepted his prayer by making the book a blessed one. The number of masail in this book is 12,000, as we came across. So this is the reference for that. Imam al-Maydani Al-Lubab. So his commentary, Al-Lubab, is one of the best commentaries on Mukhtasr al-Qudoori. He said, its blessing has been so widespread that it became like undeniable knowledge. The recitation of Mukhtasr al-Qudoori has been proven to be very efficient at times of great adversity and epidemic conditions. Imam Tashkubri Zada Kubri Zada said, no, that scholars have been seeking blessings of this Mukhtasar to the extent that they have experienced its recitation at times of great adversities and during days of plague. Subhanallah. Haji Khalifa quoted Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Bistami, a very big name, al-Bistami, the author of Misbahul Anwar al Adiyah, I believe that's correct, as saying, the Hanafis seek blessing by reciting it during days of epidemics. The one who memorizes it will be preserved from poverty to the extent that it is said that whoever studied it under a righteous teacher and the latter makes dua for blessing for him at the completion of the book, he will own the same amount of dirham silver coin as the number of masail in the book. Allah Ta'ala alam knows best. Anything's possible in the infinite mercy of Allah. So never ever discount possibilities. It is mentioned in some commentaries of Al-Majma' al-Bahrain, which is another Hanafi book. So again, you come across various books of the Hanafi madhab, and I will point them out. If you want to take notes, okay? What I will say is, don't just sit there and listen, but do take notes. Taking notes is extremely important, something that I was very religious to. And one of the signs of a curious student is to take notes, inshallah. So please do keep a note of that. That it contains 12,000 masail. Ustad Ahmad Khair studied Mukhtasar al-Qudoori under Imam al-Kawthari. He said in his biography of Imam al-Kawthari, printed at the beginning of Al-Maqalat. So again, these are named of books. Among the book that I studied under al-Kawthari was the treatise al-Qudoori. It is a blessed book. It is through a confirmed fact and undeniable transmission among the Hanafi scholars that reading this book under the guidance of a righteous sheikh is a reason that facilitates sustenance and livelihood. Now, I'm not going to claim I'm righteous. I'm not going to claim I'm pious, and I'm not going to certainly claim I'm a faqih. I will let you judge that as we go along, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? At times of hardship and difficulties, reciting and studying the blessed Mukhtasar al-Qudoori may be a source of relief. This is undeniably through the blessing and intermediaries of the great scholars of our Hanafi madhab. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the blessings and the insight to what we have studied or read so far. Now we're going to very quickly jump into the sanad of Imam Qudoori. This is something that really gets me irking, because I love asanid or sanads, chains of narration. I mean, thinking that our deen and all the respective Islamic sciences have chains of transmission from your teacher all the way to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is amazing. So the sanad or the chains of transmission from Imam Qudoori to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned here. I have been granted ijazah for this book by some scholars, but I just need to research my sanad. So inshallah, my plan is, inshallah, for those of you who have at least 70% attendance, okay, of this course, so that can be done very easily. I'm not going to say how, and please don't ask me. Okay, it will go into certain other discussions, but I'm just saying 70%. Whether you believe that 70% said loosely or 70% said religiously, I'll leave that to your minds, inshallah. Inshallah, I will. My plan is to grant ijaza with a sanad, inshallah ta'ala, for this book. So Imam al-Qudoori, he narrates from Muhammad bin Yahya al-Jurjani. So there is a great scholar called al-Jurjani. I'm not sure which science that was from, but this is not that scholar, okay? So he was a great Hanafi scholar. He studied by Imam Abu Bakr al-Jassas. So this is a few sort of links just to give you an idea. It may not necessarily be talking about their biography as such, but just some of their books that they've authored, just to give an insight. Imam Abu Bakr al-Jassas narrates from Imam Qarhi, another great Hanafi scholar. Again, PDFs again as well, who studied from Imam Abu Sa'id al-Burda'i, who was Imam Abu Sa'id al-Burda'i. Many people haven't actually heard his name. He was actually a Jibal. He had a great emphasis on the Hanafi scholarship in his respective era. Abu Sa'id al-Burda'i. He studied from Imam Abu Sahal, or Abu Sahal, Musa al-Razi, if I remember correctly. This is not Imam al-Razi, the famous Mufassir, or the famous commentator of the Quran. Okay, Mufassir. That's not Imam. That's not this Imam Razi. Okay, that's someone else. This is the Hanafi scholar. Okay. He studied from Imam Muhammad Ash-Shaybani, who studied from Imam Abu Hanifa, Nu'man bin Thabit, and Abu Hanifa studied from Hammad ibn Sulaiman. Imam Abu Hanifa studied by many teachers, but one of his main teachers was Hammad ibn Sulaiman. And there is reference, and again, I don't remember the exact book and reference, so please don't quote me on that, but I have read this and I have come across it in my research and studies, that Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, he studied 2 years of Islamic academics with Hamad ibn Sulaiman, and for 18 years he spent perfecting the etiquettes and mannerisms of Islam with Imam Hamad ibn Sulaiman. So that just goes to show that knowledge is not knowledge without the practical implementation. If the essence of knowledge is not evident in your character, in your day-to-day lives, then the question arises, what value does that knowledge have? It doesn't. All you've done is just studied and then just shelved that knowledge away, and that's it. That's not the purpose of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is to study, to understand, and then propagate. This is the essence of knowledge, okay? Whether it's fiqh, hadith, tafsir, whatever it may be. And by doing so, you perfect your knowledge, okay? Hamad ibn Sulaiman studied from Ibrahim an-Nakha'i. Okay, he was another great scholar of of Islam. So again, he's not Hanafi, because these are among the teachers of Abu Hanifa. Well, not direct teachers, but teachers. And Ibrahim an-Nakha'i studied by Alqama. So Hamad ibn Sulaiman, Ibrahim an-Nakha'i, and Alqama, these were all what we call the tabi'een. So you have the Sahaba, who were the students of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then you have the students of the Sahaba, who were known as the tabi'een, the ones who followed them. And then you have the tab'ut tabi'een, or the atba'ut tabi'een, who were the students of the tabi'een. Okay, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then you have Sahaba. The Sahaba students are the tabi'een. Okay, and all these names, Hamad ibn Sulaiman, Ibrahim an-Nakha'i, Abu Hanifa, and Alqama, they were all tabi'een. Of course, of various years. but they were considered among the tabi'een. Okay. And then after the generation of Imam Abu Hanifa, then you have the Atba'u Tabi'een. Okay. People like Imam Muhammad, Imam Abu Yusuf, and others who were the students of the Tabi'een. Okay. I believe, and again, I may be wrong, but I believe Imam Malik ibn Anas, rahimahullah ta'ala, I believe he was from the Tabi'een as well. I believe. He studied from Abdullah, and the reason why I say because one of the most famous chains of hadith narration from the Maliki madhab is عن مالك عن نافع عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Okay, Imam Malik is from Imam Nafi, who was a tabi'i, and then Sahabi was Ibn Umar. So I believe that Imam Malik is, but I could be wrong. Okay. And they from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud in Kufa, there you had the presence of so you had the presence of Ali ibn Abi Talib karramallahu wajh, Umar radiallahu anh, and many other Sahaba as well. But these were the primary Sahaba, and they from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the sanad of Imam Qudoori all the way to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So inshallah, when Allah gives me the strength to present my sanad, then I will say, Ya ayyuha tulab, hadha sanad, or this sanad I give to you. أنا أجزتكم برواية برواية هذا الكتاب مختصر الإمام القدوري مثلا. You know, I will be giving the sanad. So expect that from the author of the book, this is what it is. So this I will, inshallah, give to you after the lesson. Just for your record, inshallah. Okay. Books that Imam Qudoori studied. So we came across a couple of them. Tajreed, Taqreeb. Okay. Mentioned here. So Tajreed was about the difference of Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i. Taqreeb, difference between Abu Hanifa and his students. Primarily Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani and Imam Abu Yusuf. These were the two primary students of Imam Abu Hanifa. There are other books, but these are the prominent ones. A bit of history here before we finish, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. So the question arises that how did the Hanafi madhab develop? Was it that a lot of the compilations or the books that were authored were of Imam Abu Hanifa? Or was it Imam Abu Yusuf? Was it Imam Muhammad? Or was it later scholars? So throughout the generations, there were various books that were written, but the initial books which was regarded as, you can say, the Bukhari of the Hanafi madhab. So you can say the 6 books which was regarded as like the ultimate source from which Hanafi rules, regulations, fatwas, and answers were given was from these 6 books. Okay, of which 2 we don't have today. So Jami' Saghir, we have that today. We've got quite a few commentaries on that. Jami' Kabir, you'll find that today. Sir Saghir, we don't have any sign of that. Sir Kabir, again, we've lost. We don't have that. I haven't come across it in my research. Likewise, my respected teacher, Mufti Liaqat Zaman, in his respected research as well, he didn't find these 2 books either. Ziyadat, present day, you have that today, and Mabsut as well. Okay. So this is just to remember that these were issued or authored by Imam Muhammad. So Imam Muhammad was the one who detailed or developed the Hanafi madhab further. Okay, he actually studied with Imam Abu Yusuf as well. Again, don't quote me on this, but in the time of Abu Hanifa, the Khalifa was Harun al-Rashid. Okay, very, very famous Abbasid Caliph. Okay, after the demise of Imam Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, I believe, and again, I'm not 100% sure, that he appointed as the Qadi of all Qadis, the judge of all judges, his student Imam Abu Yusuf. So Imam Abu Yusuf had experience of being a judge, whereas Imam Abu Hanifa did not. So that's a point to note. Okay, the wisdom behind Mukhtasr compilation. So if we're to summarize, what is the Hanafi madhab based on? There's these 6 canonical compilations. Okay, is these 6 books which are pretty much the do all and the end of all do all and the end all of the Hanafi madhab, but this is where the Mukhtasars come in. So the wisdom behind Mukhtasar compilations, the views and the opinions of the fuqaha are clearer and explained in an easier format. Okay, so what happened was you would find that there's tons and tons of information. What some scholars like Imam Qudoori done, they sieved through that information and they thought, right, what was more applicable and more necessary, they put that in their respective books. Number two, preferred opinions. Those opinions that were held at a higher grade based on theological references. So again, in the fiqh books, what you'll find that قال Imam Zufar, for example, one of the students of Abu Hanifa, وقال Hassan bin Ziyad, another student of Imam Abu Hanifa, وقال someone else. So you'll find various opinions. You'll find differing opinions between the students of Imam Abu Hanifa and himself as well. You'll find differing opinions amongst his students as well. Okay, so that's why one of the purposes of a mukhtasar, like we have a mukhtasar of Bukhari, something alhamdulillah I studied with one of my respected teachers, Sheikh Daniel Muhajir al-Dimishqi, the Mukhtasar al-Bukhari a few years ago. In the very same way, you have Mukhtasar Qudoori, okay? And presentable, everything has been organized in a better fashion to create ease in study and research. So this is another thing. You might find that I might give some tasks during this course of Imam Qudoori. So if I do, be prepared for that, inshallah. But not anytime soon, inshallah. I'm going to let you sort of catch a breath of fresh air, get a feel of what Mukhtasar is about, what Hanafi fiqh is about, inshallah, for the first 5 to 6 weeks. And then we're going to start really churning into the deep masail of the Hanafi school of thought. Other works that were based on Qudoori. Okay, so these scholars used the Mukhtasar of Imam Qudoori as pretty much the foundation of their books. Tuhfatul Fuqaha by Imam Abu Bakr as-Samarkandi. Bidayatul Mubtadi, another book written in recent times. Imam Burhan Uddin al-Mughinani. Majma' al-Bahrain, another good book. Imam Ahmad bin Ali. Kanz al-Daqaiq, this is another book. There are some various views about Kanz al-Daqaiq as well, because it's a book that's held in high regard. Imam Nasafi, another great Hanafi scholar. Tanwir al-Absar, Imam Tamartashi. The miracle behind Mukhtasar al-Qudoori. So again, we've read this already, that he took it to the Haramain, placed it on the thing, asked for acceptance and the teaching and studying of the book. And today we find the acceptance of the book. Okay. 360 chapters, chapter headings and subheadings. So please make sure you're clear about that, please. Chapter headings and you've got subheadings. Imam al-Qudoori brings a difference of opinion between Abu Hanifa and his two primary students. Point to note. Who are they? Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad rahimahullah ta'ala. But I want you to focus on Imam Muhammad, because the base of the Hanafi school of thought was Imam Muhammad. They are referred to as Aimma Thalatha, okay, the three Imams. This does not happen very often, but there will be a slight divergence, meaning a slight left turn or a slight right turn, if one of Abu Hanifa's, sorry, typo there, Abu Hanifa's students differ, and that will just be mentioned briefly but not discussed. Subjects of discussion are the main pillars of Islam and others which are applicable. It's a book that's resolute upon the fiqh of Abu Hanifa and does not go into contemporary fiqh. So this is a point to clarify, that this book is a book on classical Hanafi fiqh. Yes, there may be a possibility that I would perhaps touch upon some elements of contemporary fiqh, but please don't expect that this will happen, okay? Because time will be short and priority will be given to explain the mas'ala, the masail. And what you've got to understand is, in explaining the mas'ala masail, there will be the linguistical input, there will be the Arabic language, there will be the translation, then there will be obviously the commentary. So within the commentary, obviously there's going to be your main sort of depth and breadth of the Hanafi fiqh. Okay, so please do keep this in mind. He mentions Quran ayat and ahadith, point to note, but he does not necessarily mention the references for the ahadith. So be very clear about that. Okay. You will find a difference of opinion between Imam Qudoori and scholars of later generations, especially if that is not the view currently upon which the fatwa has been given. So do keep that in mind as well. Okay. There are other primers in this science. Okay, names are here. But basically, this is our introduction done. Okay, I hope it was enough of an introduction. Um, whom of you feel that the introduction that was done today pretty much has answered majority of your questions? Who would say yes before we leave, inshallah? We've gone a bit over time today, so I do apologize. But inshallah, I hope it's been worthwhile because I wanted to complete the introduction today. And for me, that was my focus point. Any others who would say that their questions have been answered based on the introduction? Oh, any questions? If you've got any questions, please fire your questions before we go. Okay. By classical fiqh, does that mean it is not applicable in these times? No, it is definitely applicable. So the question is, how is it applicable? This is what we learn in fiqh. The essence of fiqh is that you're trying to see the underlying principles. Okay. So it's not that, okay, we've studied the chapter of wudu, or we've studied the chapter of recitation of the Quran, or we've studied the chapter of reading optional raka'at. There will be underlying principles that will show consistency or application in various mas'alas. And it is those principles which would then be used as a basis to answer some of the modern day queries or questions. And that's exactly what the muftis use. So when we say who's a mufti, okay, some scholars who are answering questions just like muftis, they're not actually muftis themselves. It's their expertise and their experience and their know-how which has led them to answer those questions. But the core facet or the core of answering any question, whether it's classical or whether it's present day, are those underlying principles, okay, which otherwise some students would study initially as usulul fiqh, okay, the principles of fiqh. But sometimes you don't need to study the usulul fiqh. You will come across that just by studying the books of fiqh. Okay. Are there any other questions before we bring it to a close, inshallah? Sorry, I've tried to speed up today. It has gone a bit long, but hopefully you'll forgive me, inshallah. And hopefully you've enjoyed today's lesson, inshallah ta'ala. Are there any other questions? No? Oh, how long are the classes? Maximum 1 hour. So today was a little bit long because I just wanted to get introduction done. So idea is to start UK time 7:15 to 8:15. Those of you who are not in the UK, please do keep in mind that in the UK, at the end of October, the clock goes back 1 hour. Okay. So there's a possibility that times will change, possibly, not necessarily. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Towards the end of October, the clocks in the UK go back 1 hour. So there's a possibility that time will change, but inshallah, I will let you know ahead of time potentially what we're looking at. I think you said this is a 1 year course. We will go through 12,000 masalas in 1 year. So what I said was the idea is hopefully, if we can complete it, we will do. I personally think we won't. Okay, so that's my conclusion. I personally don't think we will. It will definitely go into the second year, I think, but you never know. It just depends, inshallah ta'ala. But the idea is not to finish the book with speed. The idea is to understand the book. That is what I'm going to give priority to. So Those of you who are attending, what I want you to take away is the understanding, the essence, and the underlying principles of what has been studied. If you need to fill in the blanks, you can ask questions. Inshallah, what I'm going to do is, after we've studied the first lesson or so, what I will do is to consolidate your lessons. I'm going to send a list of questions, inshallah, for you to go through. And what we will do at the beginning of each lesson, we will answer those questions and then we'll start the next lesson. Okay. So for me as a teacher, there's a lot to plan and prepare, but the idea I've done it in this format so that you benefit. The way I'm teaching, um, I specifically didn't get taught like that, but I'm teaching it in this way so that I'm covering the main parts. So you got a chance to do your research, to look at lessons before attending. You also have a chance to understand the lesson, fill in the blanks, ask questions, and also to review the lessons afterwards. And as part of that consolidation process, I will be giving questions, inshallah, for you to look over, which, inshallah, in the following lesson at the beginning, we will be going through. Okay? Barakallahu feek. Are there any final questions, inshallah, or are we done for today? We done for today? Any more questions? So I should see a hurrah of no before we finish, inshallah. No more questions? Okay. Jazakallah khair, barakallahu feek. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you, and especially those of you who haven't answered. If you know other people who are interested, please invite them. As I said, look, the course is free. I didn't have these opportunities in my studying era. Very, very rarely did I have the chance on a few occasions. Very rare, very rare. But that as well, few and far between. So I have dedicated, alhamdulillah, this time, inshallah, for those of you, for whatever reason, that you can come, study, dedicate this time for the sake of Allah to understand the deen of Allah through the Hanafi lens, inshallah, because we are now gearing ourselves up to become students of the Hanafi roadmap, inshallah ta'ala. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are looking forward to it, inshallah, and that you enjoy the course. Please feel free to give feedback. If there are things that you need to share, please make sure that you touch base with me. And if there are any questions that you cannot ask me on the group, in lesson, please feel free to ask on the group and I will endeavor to answer it during the week. Okay. Jazakumullah khair wa ahsanul jaza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you, bless our sitting, bless our studying, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rectify intentions that we study this knowledge for the right reason and for good reasons, and that inshallah we're here not just to benefit ourselves but also benefit others. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'll see all of you inshallah next week at 7:50 p.m. UK time. Barakallahu feek.